Hey guys, welcome to episode 13 of The Audacious Dutchman. On this one, I have an awesome chat with Helen Parker, which is somewhat overshadowed by the fact that the mix was shocking at the start of the episode. I work it out probably about 5 or 10 minutes in, but I wanted to start by apologising for that and letting you know that I work it out. So yes, you will hear the intro music really distorted and you'll hear me peaking. It's because I forgot to adjust the volume that everything comes through into this desk. Bear with us. I hope you enjoy the episode in spite of all this. Hey, and welcome to episode 12 of The Audacious Dutchman. Today I'm joined by Helen Parker. How you going? You going good?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. So Helen is the CEO or director, which one? CEO of the Babes Project. And every time. The Babes Project is, how would you describe it? Perinatal and postnatal care for mums.
It's perinatal, so we do antenatal and postnatal support and education for women who are vulnerable.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, interesting. So, at what point do you start? Is it literally from the moment you find out you're pregnant right up until the birth, and then at what point do you stop?
Yeah, so we are open to women who are pregnant, so any time from when they find out until baby is 1. We mostly work with them more intensely in the antenatal period, so before birth, because a lot of them are in some sort of crisis, and then postnatally we run some programs there as well, and then they graduate at baby's first birthday.
Interesting. Very, very cool. So I guess, is it just general care, or is it for people who are in vulnerable situations, maybe domestic abuse, or maybe they're living a rough life, or is it for normal people as well, normal mums? Like, when I say normal, that's probably a bit rough, but you know what I mean, like traditional, like Mon and I, could we have accessed the help from Babes Project?
Yeah, look, we are a charity, and that means that we have all our things in place, in particular to help those in crisis. So the definition of a charity with all the tax deductibility, it's called a PBI, so a public benevolent institution. So you actually have to be helping people who are in distress. And we definitely see that there is so much need in our communities for women who are in crisis or are in distress or need that extra support and education, that we literally do not have room for those who may be able to access support or have support in place. So we are really just for women who don't have a lot. And it's a huge range. It might be those who have a history of drug and alcohol use or mental health challenges, domestic abuse. There might be refugees who don't have a lot of access to Medicare or visa issues. But for whatever reason, they've come to a point where they're pregnant and have realised that to succeed in their pregnancy and parenting, they do need some support. And I will say also that a lot of their situations, through no fault of their own, a lot have come through the child protection system themselves as children. So a lot of women who've come through foster care. And so it's really important that we acknowledge that they're doing great and they're making brave decisions, but they do need that extra support.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Where do you get the idea from?
My own experience. I definitely think that there's something really unique and different that people who go through something can bring to something like the Babes Project, and that's my journey with it. That I was in my third year of architecture.
Did you study architecture?
Yeah.
No way. There you go. Yep. I nearly did. I got in and never pursued it. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a fabulous course. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it because I got pregnant.
Yeah, right.
So I was in my 3rd year and in a really unhealthy relationship. That ended when I found out I was pregnant, and I basically had to rally and work out how I was going to have a baby on my own.
Wow.
And, we're not from Australia, so I don't have a lot of family here. And so that's when I started becoming really aware that we don't have a lot of support for women here in Australia. Now, most of us would assume we do. But when you actually dig a little bit, you start to realise that what we're really great at here is whacking a Band-Aid on an issue. We don't actually look at the whole complex issue, and we go, oh, well, for these women, we need to make sure they, can access secondhand baby goods and, maybe some food vouchers, maybe housing. But we're not actually looking at it as a whole. And so we might address some of those practical things, but we're not actually teaching women the skills that they need to increase their capability to parent. And there's a lot of judgment and condemnation when things go wrong, when women are in complete crisis and their babies are removed or their children are removed, but we're not doing enough holistically to prevent that happening.
Agreed. Look, it's something we've talked about on the podcast before. We had, in episode 3, I think I had a doula on, and we were talking about the gaps in the medical system. And we had a discussion about why we thought that there were the gaps and how you sort of... the reason we got a doula is because we identified the gaps quite early on in the process. And we got the doula to try and fill those gaps. Why do you think the medical system is set up in a way that people don't get the holistic care that they need to succeed? And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a massive question.
It certainly is.
And I think we've got an overloaded healthcare system that potentially isn't looking at, some of those really core why questions. Why are we in this position? Why is this happening? There potentially hasn't been a lot of applying solutions to that as an issue. Instead, we sort of see, oh, well, mental health is a problem. Let's just chuck some money at that. Housing might be a problem. Let's just chuck some money at that. So we're not actually stepping back as a whole system, as a whole healthcare system, and saying, well, what are all of the problems and how did we get here? And then applying the solutions. I will say that the government did a perinatal inquiry a few years back, and we were part of that inquiry, and they really sort of interrogated the whole space of perinatal support and healthcare. They put together this massive document. I think we mentioned a few times in it, maybe 8 or 9 times in it.
Nice.
Well, then they came out with all these things and not one thing from that inquiry was applied. So, and some things were done and yet they completely missed the mark of what the inquiry found. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's particularly frustrating in the space, that we're in a healthcare space being, I guess, with decisions being made by people who are not in the healthcare space. You're looking at governments who are made up of people who have been voted in and are potentially supposed to represent the people in their region, but they actually don't have a lot of knowledge around particular spaces. And when they ask for that information from the people who do know, well then, yeah, they really, I don't see a lot of evidence of them listening and then making the right decisions about where to apply that money.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a shame. When I spoke with Nicole about it, the doula, and she was our doula, that's how we met her and we used her. We felt like the hospital system is built to a point because there's 23 million people, and the only way to actually really help everyone is have 23 million healthcare workers, one-on-one help, you know what I mean? So it's really built to, like, you've got to imagine how many people live in Frankston and how many people work in Frankston Hospital. It's impossible to give everyone the care that's required. That's why I'm so interested and fascinated with getting people like you on the podcast and people like Nicole on the podcast, because I think these external, non-government, private endeavours like private midwives and doulas and what you guys do are vital to actually people's success. We need these third-party things in order for people to get real care. You know what I mean? So thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming on, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I really like it. It's really cool. Do you see, I mean, obviously the answer is better allocation of funds, but that's such an armchair statement. Do you see any way that, other than what you guys are doing now, the government could step up and do a better job? Is that a bit of an unfair question?
Yeah, it's a tough one because, I don't want to
call out the government.
Well, I don't want to bash our health system too. We're very lucky.
Absolutely.
That we can access what we can. And it is amazing. But I think you're right that there needs to be more room for organisations like ours to really be valued and funded, because we do take quite a heavy load. And I do think it's the answer. I do think, some of these private organisations and things like doulas are really integral to the success of women and how they raise their babies. But yeah, I think it would be amazing if it was valued highly by the government, so that they can sort of, and maybe we need to do better too at saying this is actually what we're saving the government by actually providing these services. We're doing so much work in preventing so much for crisis for women, that if you actually help this happen and give us more funding, we would actually be saving you money in the long run. And we probably need to get better at communicating that.
Yeah. No, that's cool. How long have you been doing it for now?
Well, my daughter so I had her in 99. She is 24.
Wow.
She was my baby. I was a single mum. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started doing stuff with the hospitals and learning about this space. And so she's 24 and she calls herself the OG babe. And then I did some work in the hospital learning and stuff when I was 21. Mm-hmm. And then I started Babes in 2009, so it's 15 years.
So what were you doing in the hospitals? How did you dip your toe?
Yeah, so I just started chatting to my midwives when I was having my daughter. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, you're not really special. This is a problem for many women all over Australia. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. How are we in this space? Because I just wanted some support, and I really couldn't get anything more than, a secondhand car seat. I wanted to learn how to parent. I don't have a good model of parenting. In my world, I don't have a lot of people to support me, or I didn't, and teach me things about parenting. And so just starting to realise that lots of women were making really brave decisions about parenting on their own, and yet they couldn't find the help they needed. And yet we were really quick as a society to condemn and judge them. So with the hospital, they basically said, look, we have excellent services, but we can't get women to access them because we're a health service. They don't always trust us. They don't always know how to navigate it. We think you could help them engage. And that became what I did there. I would just run a little workshop on Fridays. I gathered some women and we would eat afternoon tea with
Would you do
women.
that for free? Like how you get out? That's cool.
Yeah, and it was my learning space. And I did that for 3 years, and the midwives would bring women in from clinic into our space, and we just keep them connected and worked really hard to keep them connected in the health system. And then I left and did other things. And then, 2009, I'm like, we need to get back to this. And I created Babes.
Awesome. You were talking about, you mentioned you were finding it hard to have, you didn't have a good role model of parenting. Yeah. Is that what I saw you had a program called Nanas.
I love the Nanas program.
Yeah. What's that about? I sort of I did a bit of reading, but I'd love to hear you explain what the Nanas program is.
Yeah, so during lockdown, I think towards the end, there was this cool show. What's it called? It's called Kindergarten Old People's Home for 4-Year-Olds.
Okay.
ABC, awesome show. I was watching that, and we had just sort of been through, I guess, a cohort of women who are graduating, and what we were hearing from them is it's really hard to succeed as a parent when everyone tells you that it takes a village to raise a child. But what if you don't have a village?
What if you don't have a village?
Yeah.
That's what we had the same conversation while we were living in Queensland. We didn't have a village. The village was in Victoria. That's why we moved back. It's so true.
And so how do you even begin to think you can succeed when you feel like you're quite isolated, alone? You don't have just the people around you to talk to when you have questions about feeding and weaning and all sorts of things. And so I'd done a speaking engagement, and there was this older lady sitting next to me, and she was like, oh, well, my kids are all grown. I've got grandkids. My husband's always busy. I've sort of spent my life doing stuff for my kids and husband. I want to find my thing. Do you think I could help? And I'm like, oh my goodness, we've got these two groups of women who are having their babies, who need more people around them, and older women who've gone through all of that, have this wealth of knowledge, but are like feeling a little obsolete in their communities and like, oh, well, what do I do now? And I'm like, well, you need to bring them together. And so we started the Nanas program, where we have, because the other part of that was after the pandemic, lots of women had stopped volunteering because they had to go and be with their kids at home, and some had gone back to paid work. And so I also didn't have enough volunteers. So we started this program because we could get the nanas in who have time, knowledge, wisdom, experience, and then our women. And so we do this lunch together every fortnight.
That's awesome. If you were listening to this podcast and you felt like you were in the situation, you're in a crisis situation, how did we just Google the Babes Project?
Yeah, thebabesproject.com. You can make a referral through our website. Referrals are currently closed.
Okay.
Just because we're leading up to Christmas and we are maxed. We get so many referrals. So we don't have room at the moment, but you can always send us a message on the contact page, and we can be in touch with you in January. The good thing about pregnancy is you got 9 months.
That's
to get
true.
sorted.
That's very, very true. That's true.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost anything for the...
Absolutely not.
Because it's a charity. How do you guys keep the lights on? Is that a personal question?
No, it's a really tough... It's a tough deal.
I bet.
And especially in this economy... we've got our Christmas campaign at the moment, and we really need to raise some good dollars to keep the lights on, because what we do is to provide a safe space for our women. We work with a couple of hundred women a year, and
that's a lot.
It is, and we're teaching them. Hospitals refer to us all the time to provide education and support. It's crazy, and yet we've got to find every dollar ourselves. So it's important to us that women don't have to pay for it themselves. They've already got a lot going on. But we definitely, love to find donors who believe in what we're doing, believe in supporting young families and sort of want to put their money where their mouth is. We've all got strong opinions about how people should raise their kids, but if people want to do something that's really proactive in creating a supportive community for vulnerable people, we'd gladly take a donation.
I bet. Oh, that's awesome. So, in terms of once you're involved in the Babes Project from I guess the word's customer, from a customer level, what sort of support do you guys offer? So we've gone over the Nanas for New Mums program, but what else do you guys do?
Yeah, so we run a full perinatal education program.
What's perinatal mean?
Perinatal is from conception to baby's first birthday.
Okay.
And so it's a really crucial time because we know that the first 1,000 days of a baby's life is really important. So we've taken a segment of that we feel that we can really make a difference in, and sort of set women up as well as we can. So that full perinatal program takes them through one-on-one appointments. So they come in every fortnight. We've got this program that delivers information like how to birth your baby, how to bring your baby home into a safe environment. You can still go to baby shops and buy all these things that they're not safe for baby, cot bumpers and things. And so we're trying we're trying to educate women that you don't need all this stuff. Don't spend your money on all this stuff. That's not what you need to create a safe environment for baby. And so we teach them how to create safe environments for baby. We teach them how to bath baby, change nappies, teach them how to, what to expect around feeding. We actually teach them what to expect in hospital because a lot of women have gone through significant trauma and abuse. And so we have to prepare them for, I guess, just the hospital system as well because they don't always interact well with that.
I can only imagine if you've had significant trauma and then you go into that system, because that was quite shocking. We've talked about it on the podcast before,
right?
Just how shocking. When I say shocking, I don't mean bad. I mean just the shock that you get. Our experience was, so Mon wanted a water birth, and we knew we had to call ahead to get them to fill the bath. And I called at 7 o'clock. And I said, we'll probably come in at about 10. And they said, call us when you're on the way. We're not going to fill the bath now. That's fine. Anyway, 10 o'clock, we go in. And I call them we're coming in. And they go, all the baths are full. So straight away, I know that almost sounds, when you're talking about people who have suffered trauma and have significantly worse situations than that. But I guess it's bad enough in a normal circumstance. So I can only imagine if you've come from maybe an abusive relationship, or if you just don't necessarily do well with people you don't know.
Right. And I think it can be quite jarring. And so, what's amazing about your example there, whilst it would have been really jarring for you guys and not ideal for what Mom wanted, that example was helpful because Mon had you. She also had potentially some, I don't know her very well, but she had the self-awareness and the resources in herself to create strategies to overcome that disappointment.
Correct.
Most of our women don't have that.
Yeah.
And so we have to do a lot of work in preparing them for the health system that is excellent, but it's not imperfect. No, it is imperfect.
It is imperfect.
Not perfect.
Yeah.
And so we have to do a lot of work because you'll hear some of our women talk through experiences that they've sort of reported that their birth was devastating and all these extreme words, but it actually sounds like it is on the spectrum of a normal birth because they've got this trauma background, and if things don't go to plan, they read it as quite negative. So it's significantly hard, and they don't always have the resource and strategy to overcome that. So what we do is we try to create this safe space for them to navigate that whole perinatal period with us, and we provide them, I guess, a bit more stability so that they can overcome some of those disappointments and hardships and challenges without sort of falling apart. Does that make sense?
Certainly does.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful work. I really do. The hospital system can be really scary. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's scary for you and me if we don't know it.
That's what I mean.
So-
I literally, I can't even, while you were saying that, I was sitting here trying to put myself into the perspective of someone in a troubled situation. And I think I would not do well.
And I think the other thing to acknowledge is a high number of our women, their trauma has come from that system. So they've potentially been removed from their family when they were young, and they've been in out-of-home care, and so they're still young.
They don't trust it.
They don't trust
Once bitten,
it.
twice shy.
Right. So to have us there helping them navigate that definitely takes, I guess, a lot of fear out of it. And sometimes it's really positive because we can be sort of the in-between person to advocate for them and reshape their awareness of what that system can be for them. Because ultimately, our child protection system is there to keep mothers and babies together. But yeah, we just need to help them navigate that because some of them have this deep distrust. And that's really hard.
Are you ever in the hospital with them? You know what I mean? Are you ever in the delivery suite?
We used to be, yeah, we definitely used to be, and that was amazing, but we just don't have the people resource to do that anymore. But there's other amazing charities that do just that piece.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we love...
So you partner up?
Yeah, we refer them to those charities, and, and then we do this perinatal space and they refer women to us for the
cool.
perinatal space. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that, we can all play a part in creating something really holistic. But yeah, definitely miss the birth stories. But wow, it was it took a lot out of our resources just to have. We always had two people there, and
I bet that could be 12 hours.
Oh, it was a lot longer
20,
than 12
it could
hours.
be it could literally be 24 hours. We were in the hospital from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and our doula was there the whole time.
Yeah. And then we have issues with, workplace safety, and we've got to only have people there for a certain amount of time. So then we've got to switch over. And so sometimes
that's traumatic.
We would go through 4 people, 4 of our staff if we had to. And we just, and then it would take away from our programs. And so, we leave that to those who focus on just that.
It's a good idea to specialise sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you get involved? So Mon probably wants to talk about this, not on the podcast, but she's been thinking about saying to you, I'd love to help out. She's looking for a vocation, looking for something that she can do to help give back and fill her cup. And she would love to talk to you about how can she help. Yeah,
look, there's heaps of ways to contribute to
sorry, Mon, I dobbed you in. I hope you haven't changed your mind.
Totally fine. I'm so used to husbands dobbing their wives in.
Oh, dear.
But, yeah, look, it's a high commitment. So we have almost all of our team are volunteers. Mm-hmm. We have a very, very small skeleton staff just to keep things going. But our volunteers are the powerhouse that runs Babes. They do a 6-hour shift a week, most of them. Some of them do a bit less. And they are trained in a huge way to deliver the program. There's also other ways to contribute, like we have our Christmas Love campaign that's just been completed where people purchase gifts for women because often our women don't have anything under the tree.
Oh,
and
that
so
sucks. So that's a nice idea.
Yeah, well, it's important because our women need to remember that looking after themselves is a high, that should be a priority for them in how they look after their babies because they often use all their resource to look after their babies. But then there's also, there's heaps of other ways to be involved. And mostly it's on our social media, so our Instagram and Facebook or our LinkedIn or our website. But definitely our socials is where it's the most up-to-date information all the time. And actually my 24-year-old who is the OG babe. She runs our socials.
Ah, cool.
So it's it's definitely the place to go when you want to know more about contributing. We're opening our next volunteer intake in late January.
Okay.
So we do that twice a year.
That's a cute kid.
Oh, you're looking at our financial appeal, our Christmas appeal?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
Mm-hmm.
So all our photos are real mums. So
that's not stock.
no stock photos ever in Babes.
Love it.
Obviously, we can't show everyone because...
Look at the big man.
they're not all consented, but everyone on our pages are consented, and they're real stories. Great. Real mums, real babies, real stories.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So running a not-for-profit, I've never considered that, ever.
Don't.
Nah, not a lot of profit in it.
It's a hard slog.
Yeah, right.
Hard slog.
Well, I guess you'd really have to be passionate about the cause.
You have to be passionate about the cause, and you have to stay passionate. And so, in the day-to-day, sometimes I'm like, oh, man, I just want to be a florist or do something that... And I know that I would not be fulfilled in doing something that I didn't 100% believe in, because that's who I am. But it's a hard slog, and actually, often have to reconnect with the why, and sit with the women. And I'm lucky enough I'm still involved with the Nana's Lunches, because that was a pilot program that I played around with, and so I'm still involved there, and it's great for me because, when I'm organising all our compliance and all our stuff behind the scenes, and then I get to connect to the women and hear their stories, and it's quite moving. That reminds me exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing.
It's like when the pilot light goes out in the middle of winter. Sometimes you just got to go out in the cold and reignite the pilot light.
Yeah. Yep, pretty much. And it's felt like winter in this sector for the last 3 years.
Yep. It would be really hard I was talking with Dad on the podcast, I don't know, 2 months ago now, and he was talking about people donating, because obviously he runs the Peyton Foundation. Not to be confused with the Pater Foundation, which gets some confusion there. Peyton Foundation. And nobody has any money left. Stuff's expensive.
It's really tough, and it feels like because of where we're at as an economy, even what we're paying for as a charity and the compliance there has got increased profoundly. Like
compliance, so the government require you to spend money that you... That's hysterical. Yeah, because of their inadequacies.
Well,
that's hysterical.
I'm not going to say anything like that.
Well, I did.
But what I'm saying is, it's a really tough time to be a charity, and I've had lots of conversations with your dad, because he and I are both very, very passionate. So obviously, I know your dad through a professionally through Peyton Foundation.
Well, that's what the foundation do. They take profits from they offer construction finance, private construction finance. Mezzanine debt is what they actually do for development sites. You can Google what that means. It's too boring to explain on a podcast about saving mums. But and then they funnel money out to charity. So Dad was just in Africa because they give money to Africa. So I guess that's how you guys connected, yeah?
Absolutely. And he and I've probably also got like a shared passion for the sector. We talk about, how the constructs of society that we feel need more attention, and how we can do better as a society here in Australia, because we're quite unique here in that we don't have a great understanding of charitable giving. And so, he and I definitely talk about that a bit, and about some of our frustrations, but also our great joy in understanding the sector, how we can really participate as individuals in our society, but how the charities can play a part in being a positive part of society. Yeah.
When
so-
you say we don't have a great understanding of charitable giving, do you mean that normal people like me, who just go to work every day, don't rate charitable giving, or the government haven't really set up the infrastructure for charities to succeed?
I think it's probably both.
Okay.
I think a lot of, in Australia, we do really well at emergency giving. So emergency funds when there's bushfires or massive appeals that are really quick, hard and fast, and we're like, we'll chuck some money at it.
Yeah.
I think one example of that was, one of the biggest fundraisers in the bushfires raised millions of dollars, and it was promised to go to a certain, to help people on the ground, but it was being funneled through a charity. And straight away I looked and went, they're not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to give it to what they've said they're giving it to, because it's not part of the objectives of that charity. Now that's basic charity law, but in Australia we sort of have this thing of like, well, we're going to give our money to what we want it to go to, and it doesn't really matter, or I don't really even understand what I'm now committing to this money to, because, I'll just make sure that it goes to where I want it to go to. That's not how it works. And so we don't have a good understanding of charity law and how charities work.
Oh, wow. So are you saying that... I think I know what you mean, but so basically they were running ads saying give to the fires, and that's what people heard. I'm giving to the fires, and it was going through a charity that was not actually legally able to deliver on the promise in the ads, or was it a misunderstanding of the public the public of what the ad was?
So it
Does
wasn't.
that make sense?
Yeah, it wasn't ads so much as a celebrity sort of very, very, very eager and very well-meaning celebrity was really rallying their people to get behind this.
Whoops.
And kept saying like, I've done the work and I've chosen where this money is going, and it's going to go to and they're going to distribute it to the people. I'm going to make sure that happens. And I looked up the charities straight away, and I'm like, there's no way they can do this. And so it ended up in court.
What happened to the money?
So it has gone to that charity. It had to. So it got paid through the charity. And I think they had an agreement of how it would be distributed, but it could not go directly to the people, because the charity was more around... the infrastructure of fighting fires, like equipment and things like that. Now, it was a very great charity.
Not relief.
Right.
For people.
Yeah. So I don't actually know. I don't remember. I apologise. I don't remember
you're right.
what the exact outcome of that was, but it could not go to what this amazing celebrity, who was very well-meaning.
Sure.
It couldn't go to everything that she had promised the public.
That's so interesting.
But that is what we don't understand here in Australia. That, when I give my dollar, I say things like, oh, well, I don't want it to go to admin costs. I don't want it to go to infrastructure. I want it to go directly to the person.
Sure.
Do you know what? That person needs the infrastructure. That person needs to depends on the health of a reputable charity, and to be a healthy and reputable charity, we need to pay those bills.
Yep.
And they need to come to a safe space where we have electricity and we can turn the lights on and it's warm. And so we need to pay those electricity bills. So we need to be much more educated about, I'm going to find the charity I believe in and the charity that I can see is reputable and does good work with the money. But once I give them that money, I trust that they're going to put it exactly where it needs to go.
Yep.
And you get your tax benefit anyway.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
But essentially, we're buying a product. You need to find the right charity that matches up their product, their outcome, and what they're doing with your values. Outside of that, you need to trust them to do that work, because they absolutely need to put money into the things that make them a good charity.
Yeah, right.
We've gone on a tangent, but what I'm saying ultimately is, I guess here in Australia, we have a little bit of a warped understanding of the charity sector. And I think it's a beautiful, exciting, vibrant sector. And if more people, really talked about where they gave their money, and I'd love more people to talk about what they donate to. We're too private about donations. We think we're a bit tall poppy and we don't talk about it.
Yep.
Talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
Tell me where you like donating, because I actually really love Pets of the Homeless.
Right. Yep.
I love that. I love the Lighthouse Foundation, and I donate to those. And I talk about it all the time, because the more we talk about where we give, the more we gain understanding from each other around giving, around the charities, around good charities. Yeah.
So you think that's a big part of helping out that issue? Talking about where you donate and why you donate there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Where do you donate?
Well, I donate to the church that Dad helps out in Africa.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about it, and I just really like the work that he was doing. Mm-hmm. And seeing the pictures might be a bit selfish, but I love seeing the pictures come back from when he goes to Africa, and I go, I would love to help out with that, but I can't go there.
Yeah.
Well, I could go there,
yeah.
but I can't afford to take 2 weeks off work.
Yeah.
Because we need to pay the power bill.
Well, and actually they probably need your dollar more than they need you to go over there.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything selfish in feeling good about what your dollar is doing and feeling like,
I don't think there is either.
Yeah, you actually need to. We need to see. We need to understand where our dollar's going and go. I need to actually sacrifice to do this, to help this work be achieved.
Yep.
And we should be doing that. We should be giving, because it's good for us and it's good for our community. It's good for society, and it changes people's lives. And so seeing...
Is it biblical?
I don't know.
I don't know
I'm
either.
not going to comment on
Yeah,
that.
I don't know either.
I would say yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, but
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah, sure.
a theologian, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to comment on that.
Neither.
I would say absolutely yes, but that's as far as I'm going to go.
Yeah. So you grew up in going to the Salvos.
Yeah. Probably, well, from when I had my daughter, I walked into the Salvos.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay,
so
I misunderstood. I thought you were saying when you were a kid you were
No.
at the Salvos.
I popped in there a couple of times when I was like 17, 18.
Yep.
And then I went back when I was pregnant.
Yeah, okay.
And it was the youth intern and youth pastor that became my birthing partners. And so they were with me, throughout my whole pregnancy and supported me. And then I moved into the youth pastor's house with my baby because I was facing homelessness. And I guess for me, that's where I learnt that, women needed more than just a Band-Aid solution. They needed care. They needed people to walk alongside them. And that's what I found through the Salvos.
Yeah, cool. I got a question for you that you may or may not be able to answer. So I believe that men have a big role to play in supporting their wives during pregnancy. Not because they're the partner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a guy. It could be your girlfriend as well. You know what I mean? I believe that partners have a huge role to play. And it's something that we talked about with Nicole. And I asked her this question. I asked her, how do you think men or partners can help support their pregnant partner or wife? What have you seen be inspirational, maybe?
I think, so obviously at Babes, our women are not all partnered. So
Understood.
I think 53% or so come to us single.
The reason I asked this question is I know that most of my audience are dudes.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. Coming to appointments with women and asking questions that you want to know is really helpful.
Okay.
So how can, like, actually carving that time out of your day and going to an appointment and asking questions about birth that are going to be helpful for you and means you are taking ownership of the whole process as well. That's really helpful for women. When she doesn't feel like she's then got to relay information to you about birth, that's a really huge weight off. Like in
So
terms
just being
of
a
her
team
mental load. Yeah, absolutely. It's your baby too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so being able to, ask those questions is really important. So being present at appointments, not leaving the whole pregnancy up to her. It is very much, your space as well. And don't fall asleep in birth. Dudes, stop falling asleep.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
While they're in the delivery suite?
Yeah, or while they're waiting because she's been induced or whatever. Look, no, it's a no from me.
Yeah, right.
No falling asleep, guys.
You don't like sleep, though. We did this before you came over. You don't
That's
sleep.
not true. I love sleep. I just don't need a lot and I don't get a lot. But come on. She's birthing your baby. No sleep in the delivery room.
I had a sleep. Do you like that? I had a sleep while we were at home.
That's okay.
And she was in labour. And the doula looked at me and said, you need to sleep now because you're not going to be sleeping for another 12 hours.
I definitely...
And it was the end of the day and I'd been awake since 5 o'clock. So I slept at 7 and I'm glad I got 45 minutes and I'm glad I did because I was awake until 5 o'clock.
I'm definitely okay. Look, I'm not the gatekeeper of this, but you can plan to have a sleep. Get someone to come in and, and do a shift or something and go and get a nap. But just like falling asleep because you're bored during, when you're waiting for the induction to kick in or something, like it's crazy. We have so many stories of it. And there's quite a lot on social media about it. But but you can plan your nap. Cool. Yep. That's fine. As you also don't have the adrenaline pumping that she does that will keep her awake. So that's
I don't know.
fair.
I don't know about that. I had some adrenaline.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard to watch. It was hard for me to watch the woman I love be in that much pain and me not be able to fix it and know that we were probably halfway. And we could have been longer than halfway.
Well,
there's
another conversation in there about, like, men just wanting to fix it.
Absolutely, and that is where arguments come from. That's where our arguments come from because Mon will come to me with an issue, and what I've learned is some of the time she wants me to listen and just be a sounding board, and I'll try and fix it.
Yeah,
and that just pisses her off. Yep.
Yeah.
Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Absolutely, but while we're birthing your babies,
don't fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep.
And there are some things you can't take back as well.
Right.
I learned that one the hard way on our wedding day because, not on our wedding day, the day before our wedding day, I felt like I was being useless. So I thought that the best move, so we got our wedding cars from the neighbour. Yeah, he's an older guy and he has a classic car collection of all these old 50s beautiful
Amazing.
Ford Thunderbirds. So I organised to have the wedding cars for free. Good move, yeah? And I felt like I was being useless on the wedding day. So what I did is I went next door and helped him service the cars because I thought I was being helpful. No, not a good idea to... And the other piece was I didn't really explain what I was doing. I just disappeared and then she called and I said, I'm helping Tony service the cars. So my point is there are some things that you can't take back. So have a think about whether falling asleep is the best move.
The best move. Yeah.
And it really sort of sets the tone. And I'm sure it would make your wife anxious. Or your partner anxious.
Yeah.
Because,
absolutely.
I'm now bringing this kid into the world and you're having a nap. Is this the tone? Is this what we're doing now?
Well, it's just hard. It's just hard work to birth a baby. And, they want a nap too, but they don't get it. So, yeah. I mean, some women do, but not right in the thick of it. So, Be supportive. Be there. Be awake.
Have you got any new ideas that you're working on for the Babes project that you might be workshopping or in the back of your head?
Yeah, look, I'm definitely the queen of ideas. Whether they're executed well or not is another question. But next year is really around us. So we have really been in a consolidation phase and sort of getting stable again after so much hardship through the pandemic. So we'll see if a few of these ideas fly next year, but nothing that I'm ready to share about.
Sure.
But we did just get a new building.
It's a bit of an unfair question, isn't it?
Yeah, you put me on the spot. We've got a new building in Frankston, so that we just got the keys Friday.
Where is it?
Right in Young Street, I like to say it's the good end of Young Street.
Yeah.
In the Frankston Business Centre. And yeah, that'll be great. There'll be good space for us, and so we will be in a solid home for the future of Frankston Babes.
Yeah, that's cool. Is there anything I've missed?
I don't think so, but thanks for having me. It's always good to talk through not only what I do, but why I do it, and always can love having a chat about charities. So
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thank you so much. That's it. That's been episode 12. If you do want to... We've sort of touched on how you can get in touch with the Babes Project, whether you want to help out, whether you want to donate, or whether you feel like you're a good candidate for their programs. It's definitely the website or social media. Yeah?
Absolutely. And can I just say, it's not just for women. Men can connect with us as well. We often need men to help out with different things, so it's for everyone.
Yeah, sensational. Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching. It's been episode 12. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe and follow along, because I'm selfish and one day I would like to try and monetize this. That's that's it. Thank you so much, and enjoy. That's it. Thanks for that.
No worries.
You did really well. Sorry? Yeah, my pleasure.